This is lesson 3-4 for Algebra 1. Today is Sunday, November 25th, and I'm recording for Monday, the 26th of November, because my son Riley has the stomach flu. You probably hear him in the background. All right, so before we begin the notes right now, we need to talk about some things. First thing is you have already done the warm-up, right? You talked about what you did over Thanksgiving break. I will be looking at those, make sure you did that correctly. Announcement number 2 is Classcraft, and if this is not loading on my page, oh, there it goes. So in Classcraft, everything is ×2 for subs from here on out. So if you get XP, you get 200 XP for each thing that the sub notices. And for each HP deduction, it is 20 HP, which means you can die in like 2 blows. So be careful. In terms of the class, I'm still leaving everyone grouped up as one group from Thanksgiving break. So healers heal people that need to be healed. Just use your ability power as much as you can. And then starting on Tuesday, I'm going to get you back into your regular groups. Other announcement. So in terms of the schedule, let's come back over here. So here we are on the 26th. We have these 5 days, another 5 days, another 5 days. That's 15 days up to here. We have Monday, which is another day of lessons, and then our first final. I don't know if the final for our class is going to be on the 18th, 19th, or the 20th, but finals are 18, 19, 20 right there, and then the 21st is our Christmas little or I don't know, it's like the extravaganza or whatever. But 18th, 19th, and 20th are our finals, which means you have 16 days to get your grade where you want it to be. That means you need to make up your missing assignments in the next 16 days. That means you need to get your quizzes and test scores where you want them to be in the next 16 days. Just get your grade to where you want it to be in the next 16 days. So very limited on time. Okay, that is my soapbox. Let's go ahead and look at our unit guide to see where we are. So we are on lesson 3-4, multi-step inequalities. On Thursday, like 2 weeks ago, almost a week and a half, we did quiz 3.1 intro to inequalities, where we were just doing one-step inequalities. Today we're doing multi-step inequalities, and you can see that today is Monday, Tuesday is 3-5, Wednesday is 3-6, Thursday is a quiz. That means Friday we will be done with Unit 3, ready to move on to the next unit. So Friday is a test. You know that you have a quiz on Thursday. You know what's coming up. Let's go ahead and jump into the lesson. Multi-step inequalities. All right, so today's date, I'm doing it a day in advance, so it's 11/26. All right, so solution set. So when I talk about solving inequalities, what we've really been doing is solving for the solution set, and that's just the, I guess, a list of all answers. When we had inequalities, you'd have something like x equals to 7. You don't need to write that down. And that was the one answer. But if I have multiple answers like 7, 8, 9, I have more than one answers. I have a set of answers, or a set of solutions. A set is just a collection of things. I can have a set of clothes. I can have a set of numbers. So it's just a list or a grouping of all the answers. So nothing too fancy there. It's just all the answers. When does the inequality sign flip? So which of these examples does it flip? And you should know how to do these. This is a good review from a week ago before Thanksgiving break. Which of these will have the inequality flip? So I want you to pause the video now and try to solve these and see which of these inequalities flips. All right, so you've unpaused the video now. In order to solve the first one, I have to subtract 1. The opposite or the inverse operation of plus is minus. X is being added to 1, so -1 on both sides of the inequality. When I do that, I get x by itself, the 1's cancel out, and just subtracting 1 does not cause the inequality to flip a sign, so that's just x is less than 2. It does not flip there. What about in this one? Let's do this in a different color. Right now, x is being divided by 3, so the opposite or the inverse operation of dividing by 3 is multiply by 3. So I'm going to multiply by 3 on this side, multiply by 3 on this side, and these 3's should cancel out, and I'm left with x. And when I multiply by 3, does it flip the sign? The answer is no, it does not. Not unless I multiply by a negative. So 3 times 6 is 18. There is my answer. Let's go on to our next one. I have -2 being multiplied by x. The inverse operation of multiply is divide. So I'm going to divide by -2, divide by -2. And those -2's should cancel out, and I'm just left with x. But I've divided by a negative. And this is a review from 3-3, I think. Whenever I multiply or divide by a negative, it flips a sign. So this does flip. This is now a greater than. It used to be a less than. All of these are less thans. Less than, less than. This one flips. It is now -4. And finally, we have this problem. X is now being divided by -4. Inverse operation of divide by -4 is multiply by -4. So multiply by -4. multiply by negative 4. If I multiply by negative, it does flip the sign. So this is a less than, it turns into a greater than. These 4's cancel each other out. I'm just left with x. X is now greater than negative 20. All right, so there's your review. And again, I'll say that one more time. If you multiply or divide by a negative, these two scenarios here and here, if you multiply or divide by a negative, it will flip the sign. So those are the two stars, I guess. That one flips and that one flips. All right, let's go back all the way to lesson 2-4, a whole unit ago. In 2-4, we learned how to solve multi-step equations. Now we're doing multi-step inequalities. So when we have multi-step inequalities, how do we know what to do first? Do I add first? Do I multiply first? And the answer is just like it is for equalities. You use PEMDAS. So PEMDAS, let's write that down here, P-E-M-D-A-S, and you know this already, but as a review, if it's on the same level, you do them at the same time, left to right. So first parentheses, then exponents. Multiplication and division are on the same rung, the same level, and then addition and subtraction are on the same level. So I don't need to write these out. You know what they are. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. If you don't know these, replay the video and write them out to the side. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you need this again, it is in notes 2-4 in your binder. All right. So when we're solving, just like equations, to solve for inequalities, we're going to go backwards. We're going to go this direction with PEMDAS. We're going to go backwards PEMDAS. So I'm going to say use backwards PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S, or backwards order of operations. So if you don't know what to do first, look for addition or subtraction. That's the first thing you do. Next thing you to look for after you do that is multiplication or division. Just go backwards with PEMDAS. So let's look at an example 1. And this should be semi-review because you've already mastered this from our last unit. What am I going to do first? Right now, on the left-hand side is my x, my variable that I'm trying to solve for the solution set, that vocab word that we just went over, the set of all answers, the collection of all answers. So if the x is on the left-hand side, I have to either get rid of this -3 or this +2. Which one do I get rid of first? You should be screaming at the monitor, maybe in your head. You subtract first because that's the first level. If I'm going backwards, subtract is first. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides. Subtract 2 on both sides of that inequality. I'm going to copy the sign. Is this a greater than or equal to, or is it a less than or equal to? Do you know it? You're right. It is a greater than or equal to. This greater than or equal to, these 2's go away. This -3x is left behind. Oop, got a little bit of lag there. 3x. And 20 minus 2 is 18. All right. Now, obviously, the last step here is to divide by this -3 because this -3 right now is being multiplied by that x. So let's go ahead and divide by -3. Divide by -3. Whatever I do to the left-hand side, I do to the right-hand side as well. That gets rid of the -3's. And does that flip the sign? You're right. It does flip the sign because it's multiplying or dividing by a negative. In this case, it's dividing by a negative. So here I'm going to flip the sign. It was a greater than or equal to. Now it is a less than or equal to. My x is by itself. The -3's cancel out. And I'm left with 18 divided by -3, which is, well, 18 divided by 3 is 6. A positive divided by a negative is always a negative. So there's my final answer, box it. X is less than or equal to -6. Now it's asking me to graph the solution set to the inequality above. So graph this thing. Graph x is less than or equal to -6. This is also a review. I want you to try to pause the video now. See if you can do this. All right, so you've unpaused the video. The first thing I need to know is -6. Let's go ahead and use red here. -6, there's -6 right here. Okay, do I make an open dot or do I make a filled in dot? And more specifically, is it a closed point or is it an open point at -6? It is a closed point at -6. In fact, I'm going to do it above the -6. That way you can see where it belongs. It's a closed point at -6 because there's an equal to sign. If it was just x is less than -6, it would be an open point. Okay. The next question is, does it go to the left or to the right? And to answer that, just read this inequality. X is less than or equal to -6. Less than means you're going to the left, so the arrow here goes to the left. And there is my graph. Everything that you're doing right now is going to be on the homework, so make sure you understand all these things. Ask questions around from your peers, maybe the substitute knows. Hopefully you understand what's going on so far. We're on the back. I should hear papers flipping. Haha, just kidding, I can't, I'm at home. Example 2, solve for x, give an exact answer in simplified form. Okay, this is going to be a slightly harder problem. We're still going to have to graph it just like we did in the last problem, but now we have x's on both sides. And again, this is review from our last unit. So we need to decide to move the x's to the left-hand side or the right-hand side. It doesn't matter either way. I'm going to choose to do it in one of the harder ways to do it, just to practice with my flipping of signs. So I'm just going to randomly decide I'm going to move my x's to the left-hand side. I'm going to move this 3x to the left-hand side. You could have gone the other way. You could have added the 7x to this side. So let's go ahead and do that. I say I want to have my x's on the left-hand side, so get rid of this 3x. Move it to the left-hand side by subtracting 3x on both sides. When I do that, negative 7 minus 3, ooh, negatives. Do we remember from unit 0 how to do this? This is negative 10x plus 17. Does anything happen with this sign? You should be thinking about that as I'm crossing out this 3x and negative 3x. The answer is no. When I subtract, that never affects it. It's only when you multiply or divide by a negative. This is still a greater than or equal to, and I still have this negative 23 left over. All right, I need to get my constants, or my numbers, all on one side. Right now, my variables are on the left, so that means my constants are going to be on the right. I need to move the 17 to the right-hand side. I can't just move it over here. I have to do something to both sides. To do something to both sides, I'm going to subtract 17. It's the inverse operation. Subtract 17. When I do that, these 17s cancel each other out. I'm left with negative 10x behind. Does that change the inequality sign? It does not. It's still a greater than or equal to. I did not multiply or divide by a negative yet. And then negative 23 minus 17, again, some more review with negatives. This is going to be a negative 40. All right, I'm almost done. I need to now undo this multiplying by negative 10, so I'm now going to divide by negative 10. Divide this side also by negative 10. The left and right hand sides are divided by negative 10. This negative 10 is canceled out. I'm just left with a little bit of lag there. X on the left-hand side. Question again, does the inequality sign flip? This time the answer is yes, it does flip because I divided by a negative. It fits in that rule. Did you multiply or divide by a negative? I'm divided by a negative. So instead of a greater than or equal to, it is now a less than or equal to. And then a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So it's going to be positive something, positive 4. And there's my final answer, box it. And just like we did in our previous example, we need to graph this. So, and I should have changed this to a less than sign so we can practice with the open and close point. You know it's going to be a close point. Go ahead and graph this now. Pause the video. I'll come back and show you the answer. All right, so you've unpaused the video. X is less than or equal to negative 4. We know it's going to be a closed point at 4, and it's going to be less than or equal to 4, so the arrow is going to go to the left because it's less than or equal to that negative 4. And there's my answer. It doesn't need to be that long of an arrow. It can just be a little bit like that, and you're good. Our third and final example for our lesson, we need to solve for k. This one we don't have to graph. And this one is going to come out to a fraction. I'm warning you. So I want you to pause the video right now and try this one on your own using the same, almost the same steps as we did back here in example 2. So pause the video now. All right, so you've unpaused the video. Let's go ahead and choose a side. And as a hint to you guys, in order to not have to worry about negative variables or negative coefficients in front of the variables, go ahead and move the variables to the side that will make it positive. So I'm going to decide to move my k to this side, to the right-hand side. So by doing that, I'm going to subtract 24k, rather. I don't know what I'm writing here. That's not k. 24k minus 24k. When I do that, all of my k's have moved to one side, all my variables have moved to one side, and it is a positive variable because these 24's are gone, and 45 minus 24 is 21k. Let's rewrite the rest of the expression, the rest of the inequality rather. So negative 19 is left over. I have this greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and then I have this negative 26 that's being added to the 21k because that's a positive 21k from this problem here. Next step, we need to move all the constants to the other side. So if my variables are on the right, constants are on the left. So I'm going to add 26 to both sides, add 26 to both sides. These will cancel out. 26 plus 19 is going to be 7. I think that's right. Yep, 7. 26 is gone. I still have my greater than or equal to. I have not multiplied or divided by a negative yet, so the sign is not flipped. And I have this 21k left over. All right, so my final step is I'm going to divide by 21, divide by 21, and these 21s will go away. I'm left with k on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, I have this 7 over 21, but that can be reduced. It says it needs to be simplified form, so it can be simplified into something else. If I divide the top and bottom by 7, 7 divided by 7 is 1, 21 divided by 7 is 3. There's my reduced fraction. Now my question for you, is this a greater than or equal to, or is it a less than or equal to? Is it the same, or did we flip it? We divided by 21, but we did not divide by negative 21, so it stays the same. You can do your normal division or multiplication with a positive, and it's still the same sign. So there's my final answer. 1/3 is greater than or equal to k. And that is the same thing. If you don't like this form, you can flip it around. This is the same exact thing as k. If I flip everything, so the k is on the right and the 1/3 is on the, the k is on the left, the 1/3 is on the right, then this inequality does flip as well. That's going to be a less than or equal to. So these are the same answer, just in different forms. So I'm going to box both of those, just so that we know those are both the types of answers we can get. All right, that concludes our notes for today. Please make sure that you have your summary done. After you finish your summary, you can ask for the, actually, you just have a Khan Academy assignment. So after you finish the summary, go ahead and begin on Khan Academy. Maybe the sub will come by and check to see your summary is okay, maybe not. It depends on what they're doing, I guess. So good luck on Khan Academy.